viewing on the Career Briefs website. The link for that website will be provided at the end of the webinar. So the Find a Job webinars, we're going to ask that everybody keep their audio features, their microphones on their computers or on your telephone to keep it muted. I'm trying to mute everybody from my side too just to make sure, but please do check and make sure that you are muted. If you have any questions for me or for our presenter, you should see a control panel similar to what you're seeing on the screen here. You should see a control panel on the top right corner of your screen. If you're not seeing it, look for these little kind of double arrows, and that should be able to expand it back out for you. If you have any questions or comments, I want you to please use this questions area to submit your questions. If it's a question for me, if it's a technical question, I'll take the question and I'll respond to you individually. If it's a question for the presenter, I'm going to hold it until the end and then ask everyone's questions at that time. So be sure to stick around and be patient with your questions, and we'll be getting to those at the end of the presentation. So again, just use this questions area on your screen to send me any questions. So today's presentation, and I apologize, I just realized that I have a mistake. This should actually say Resume Builder, not Registering Employers. Registering Employers is what we talked about 2 weeks ago. But it is my pleasure to introduce to Nancy Galusian from the California Employment Development Department. She'll be our presenter today. Nancy earned a bachelor's in sociology from UCLA in 2008 and began working in the Workforce Services branch of EDD in the LA Ventura division. In her role as an employment program representative, Nancy provides resources and information to customers, the community, employers, and elected officials. In addition to her position as an EPR, Nancy is also an outstation trainer for the division, which means that whenever there's a new program, a new process, a change within the department, she's the one who gets to train the staff and managers on the selected topic. Nancy was recently selected by her division to be a super trainer for the new CalJobs, which is the backbone behind the cafe's Find a Job site. As a super trainer, Nancy trains staff, management, and partners on the new site. She coordinates trainings within the division and trains trainers to assist in the process of training all the staff. Nancy also serves on 3 work groups: Common Measures, Managing Reports, and Veteran Training, and those work groups analyze the CalJobs site in detail and create new training on the back end. So obviously we have a very knowledgeable and skilled trainer ready to help us learn how to use these resources. For those of you who have been with us for the last couple of weeks, you already know that Nancy's got a lot of information to share with us. So hold on to your hats and we'll go ahead and get started. Let me get Nancy's microphone unmuted here so she can join us. Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. We're going to turn the presentation over then to Nancy, and go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 4th series of the Brown Bag webinars. If you see on your screen right now, I have listed some of the things we have covered in the last 4 episodes we've had. So today we are going to cover the Resume Builder and the difference of uploading a resume versus manually typing it out, and also cover letters, since resumes and cover letters, pretty much go hand in hand. And if you were a part of the first episode we had, I did cover, the second episode we did cover the Resume Builder very slightly though, and we're just going over the stuff that job seekers or registrars, when you register on CalJobs, what you can get out of when you first register onto CalJobs. So we didn't go into it too much, so today we'll go over all there is to the Resume Builder on CalJobs. And so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the CalJobs website. We've seen it before. You could access it through here or through the Career Cafe website as well. Students can do it, both ways. And as we've discussed before, some students might already have a CalJobs account. If they have ever applied for unemployment before, then chances are they already have a CalJobs account. So you can get there many ways. And looks like the site on Career Cafe has been updated recently. So you would go to the jobs apply, and then for anyone who is new to CalJobs, they would go right to the register on CalJobs from Career Cafe, or we could go straight on to sign into CalJobs for anyone who has already been registered on CalJobs. If you ever do encounter a student who has possibly registered before, there are a lot of people who have registered on CalJobs and they don't remember, but when they try to register as a new individual on CalJobs, they'll get an error message saying, with the information you provided, it looks like you've already registered. Now at that time, you can go ahead and submit a password request for the system to email you a password, but I do know that there is a huge delay with getting that password sent back to you. So in case there's anyone that ever encounters that problem, they're always welcome to come to one of our offices, and we could go ahead and change their password and give them a new password to alleviate any issues. And that way they don't have to wait to get an email back saying that here's your password. We could do it in the office. Anyway, so getting along, you would go to either of these options. If you're already registered, you would go straight to sign into CalJobs, and you would go to sign in over here, and it will take you to the CalJobs website. Now, I'll just sign in from this section as opposed to going straight from CalJobs, so you can just see the difference of how it looks going straight to the Career Cafe website, since that's the way that you will be using most of the time with the students. I'm going to register with my not my staff account, the individual that I created for myself back a few years ago when I first got started working here. I had created my own account just so I could kind of play around with it. And as always, just to reiterate, CalJobs is free for anyone to sign up, so there's never a charge to use CalJobs. Since it's provided from the government, from the state of California, there's never a charge to use CalJobs, so it's always free to access. We've seen this homepage many times, but once you log in as a job seeker, the website CalJobs refers to job seekers as individuals. So once you go ahead and log in, this is the homepage that we will see here. Now, because I've had this account before, I have created a resume for myself, but I'm going to do it from the step-by-step process. Some things I do want to mention, though, back when CalJobs, as of March, it got a facelift, so all the stuff that we're seeing right now, you would not be able to, we did not have access to back when CalJobs was what we had before. It was very standard, very basic. You just log in, look for jobs, job orders are in place, and your resume was just a very basic resume that the system kind of generated for you. Now with the new CalJobs, when you do create a resume, the system will allow you to have up to 10 different resumes. And the reason for that is if someone has, a vast array of experience, has been working, for a long time, they can have, different resume styles, and maybe they want to specify different resumes on the site, and so that way the website can hold up to 10 resumes. And that's a really cool feature. We do see a lot of people that come in and out of our offices. They'll have at least like 3 or 4 resumes on there, and it kind of helps them stay organized. And when they're applying for jobs, if they have certain skill they want to highlight in one resume as opposed to another, let's say a retail resume versus an administrative assistant, they'll do things like that. So the new system will allow you to have up to 10 resumes. And when you go over here to your left-hand navigation, you'll just select the resume builder, and that will take us to the resume section. Now, like I said on our little agenda today, that will cover how to manually type it or to upload it. I'll show you what the difference is, and I'm going to do both, but really the difference is when you manually type it in, there's just more fields that you have to fill out. As opposed to uploading it, it'll just upload your resume. And there's still some boxes you have to fill out, but it's a lot easier, of course. And I'm not sure why it's taking so long for it to get there. Just give me 1 second here. There we go. So once you get to this part of the page, if you are helping a student, These folders up here, whenever you see this little plus sign, you could go ahead and expand all the folders just so that way you can get accustomed to see what the site features and what is offered. Once you expand everything, you kind of see what's in each folder and what can be done. So we are going to focus on the resume here. I'm going to scroll down and you see that I already have a resume in here and I have my own resume title. Now, if an employer is looking for the title, all of this will be, the resume will be displayed to the employer if they are looking for certain things in the job order they do have open. The resume does pop up. So, and I'll show you how we can change things that you don't want on the resume so that only things that you want to be highlighted are put on the resume. So that's all the information that will be put out there on the system. Now, I'm not going to really bother with what I have in here because I just want to create a new one so we can go step by step. Once you scroll down, if the person already has a resume, you'll go right here to create a new resume. If there was no resume in here, it'll just say 0 records found, and you'd go over here to create new resume. There are 3 different ways you can work on your resume in CalJobs, and you'll see the different types here. There is a first one, internal resume, where you build it from scratch, and that's the manual step-by-step process. The second way is the external resume, which is attaching an existing file that you already have. The third way is copy and pasting it. And this fourth way only appears when you already have a resume in the system. It says that you could copy an existing resume. So typically there's only 3 when you first start out. So it's either step-by-step manually typing it, uploading it, or copy and pasting it. For the first process, we're going to do the internal resume, step-by-step process. So I'm going to go ahead and give a resume title. For this one, I'll just do I'm just going to name it with just a random industry. I'm just going to use administrative assistant. And you'll see here that the system tells you what you can do. You may want to include words that highlight your skills, experience, or specialty. Since it is advertised to others, whoever looks up the resume for employers, you want to use something that might be catchy and advise students the same thing, that they want to use something, professional, catchy, something like basic, like what their resume is highlighting. You'll see the accessibility. There are 2 different types. One says select if you do not want your resume available to employers, and the other one is select if you want your resume available to employers online. Now, personally, I don't know why, if you're going to be registered on a website, why you're going to choose the do not show your resume to employers, because that kind of takes away the benefit of being online. But that's kind of for our the people who are registered on CalJobs that are on unemployment. Sometimes they just, because it's a requirement, they have to register on CalJobs, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's not their only way to look for work. So job seekers have the option of either or. If they don't want too much information out there, but it's a requirement, then they have the option of not having their resume viewable to others. I'm going to go ahead and select next. Excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold here and I keep coughing. Now you'll see up top, whenever you are doing something on CalJobs, it tells you how many steps you have. And yes, there are 18 steps with the resume. So if you know that a student is going to do it, or if you're going to help a student, with their resume, allow yourself some time and the student some time, because as we get these messages like we're getting right now, there are issues with the system sometimes, and it might take longer than expected. So 18 steps, and it's a long 18 steps, you never know what can happen. So let's go ahead and get back here. This pop-up message is just telling me that my resume is going to be viewable to employers. So if I have any issues with that, I could have changed it before I hit OK. My desired location. Now, when I first registered on CalJobs, just like any other individual, you have an option of selecting what area is your desired location. So if you want to change it at this point, you can definitely go to Edit. Or you could just go ahead to Next and keep the selection you have already made. But this happens when you first register onto CalJobs and you get a message asking what areas you're interested in looking for work, and then it saves it for later usage. However, if you are looking for jobs, you can look up jobs throughout the whole state of California. It doesn't have to be just those areas that you do select. It's open, so you could always change things around. You don't even have to make any edits to where you're looking for jobs, but that selection is just your interest, your personal, your desired location. Here it's going to ask you to select an occupation that you have selected while you've been in the system. So if I've been an accountant before, and it's pulling from administrative assistant just to see from ONET what comes up when you type administrative assistant. These are the few things that come up. So let's go ahead and select, let's just leave it as accountant. Now the desired salary, let's just do $9.50 since it's closer to minimum wage, and if you're working with students, they'll be probably around the minimum wage, about $12 or so. So let's just leave that at that. And you can always check the labor market information for the accountants, just to be more accurate on what that position should be getting paid within our state. Now this is just asking what your desired job type is. Let's just go to Edit so you see what is actually in here. It asks if you have a desired employment type, whether you want regular, temporary, seasonal. This really does not make any difference to your resume. It's just it's a section in CalJobs when you're doing the resume. If you have any restrictions or, you can't be working certain shifts, then you would fill this information out so that if an employer does look at your resume, they can see that you do have a preference on certain things. However, if you are open and it doesn't matter, you could just simply leave this blank and it won't make a difference. You'll see here your desired work hours, if it's day shift, if you only want to work graveyard shift, whatever it may be, then that will be displayed on the resume. You can leave it blank and it won't make a difference. It'll just show that you're open instead. But if you do have a desired work hour, you want to go ahead and select that. And if there's only certain days that you're available to work, and if, let's say, it's a lot less, like maybe you can't work, you can only work 2 days a week, then you do want to fill this portion out so that when an employer does see your resume, before they get maybe too excited, they can see if there is any something that might limit you in their job order that they have open. If you're willing to travel, now you'll notice that, sorry, let me scroll up here. You'll notice that under the desired work hours, there's a red asterisk under the shift and the days that you're available for work, which means it's mandatory for you to fill out. Anything with a red asterisk is mandatory for you to fill out. But the desired travel and relocation, telecommuting, that stuff is not mandatory for you to fill out, so you can leave it blank if you want to. Anything that has a red asterisk is mandatory. So you can leave it as is, but if you just want to go ahead and answer, you can always do that too. If you're not willing to travel, you can leave it as that. I'll leave mine at none selected. I'm going to save it. And now, for the future, whenever I have any other resumes to upload or to type into the system, it's going to have this profile 2 saved for me. So if at any time I don't have to go ahead and fill this out completely again, I could just select profile 2, and for my new resume that I put in the system, it'll go ahead and use this profile again for me. So I don't have to do this again. I could bypass this step. Step number 6 is the driver's license information. Now you'll notice that there are no red asterisks next to it, so you don't have to fill it out. And the only reason that this comes up is because if there is a job that requires you to have a driver's license, obviously like a driving position, then it'll be important for you to fill this portion out. But you can leave it blank and it won't hinder your job results at any way because it's not a mandatory field. It's just the more information you fill out, the more an employer could kind of see what you have if it's for their job or they have open. Now we're experiencing another little delay here, but no big deal. That kind of happens. I've experienced it a good amount of time when you're doing a resume in CalJobs. You have to be very patient with the system because there are some delays with it, and but it happens. What we'll see here once we're done typing in the manual resume, you can make changes to the font, to the alignment, to your resume as well. They've really done the resume section so that you can tailor the resume and use this as your own resume, as opposed to what we had before, which was just a printout of your employment history and nothing else. But the new version allows us, for someone who is just starting out, they could use this resume builder as a really good resume for the future to build on and to expand, especially for someone who is first starting out looking for a job. It really makes it easy to kind of make a layout of a resume and a template to kind of base everything off of in the future. If you have any type of security clearance, you would fill that out here. Any languages and proficiency, you would enter that information here just to see what languages do pop up. If you add a new language, you get a whole list of things, different languages here. So you would select either one of these and you would indicate your proficiency level. I actually speak another language. Let's see if mine is here. No, I speak Armenian. I was going to select it, but it's not on here. So never mind that. But my proficiency isn't too well, so it's okay. No big deal. Your typing speed, you would go ahead and indicate that if you would like, but once again, it's not mandatory, so it's really up to you. The more information, like I said, you have, the better it is on your resume. And then here you'll see it's step 8, and this is your resume layout template. So it might be overwhelming if a student's doing it at first, but anything that is checked under the section here will be displayed on the resume. If the student is not going to have any of that information, it's best to uncheck anything so that they don't have to go back and do it later. I'm going to leave a few checked so you can see how it looks and then how to make any edits at a later time, because a lot of times people will skip this step. So for instance, right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to deselect additional information and occupational licenses and certificates. So I'm not going to select that so it does not appear on my resume, but I'm going to leave a few other things here that I'm going to come back and change later, just so you see what difference it makes on the resume. You'll see here that my current template is selected as a chronological system template. I could go ahead and change it to functional. I could change it to, now chronological lists it in the most recent order. Functional is more of a experience order. It'll kind of focus on the experience you've had rather than showing dates. The CalJobs system template is actually in a chronological order, and what you see here titled this format, that's something that I created in my last resume I had, just like when I did that profile 2 on the days I'm available for work. So it'll go ahead and save it. So that's what this format is. Anytime you make a change and save it, it'll always be available for you to do again on any other future resume. I'm not going to select it. I'm going to just keep that at the chronological system. I'm going to come down here and actually, sorry about that. Let's go to the resume format. This is where I was saying that you could change the alignment, the title size, The title font, we don't have too much of a selection, but there are a few things that we can select from. If you want Arial, Times, I'll just leave mine, I'll put mine to Times. If you want a bold, italic, bold, and italic, I'll put none for mine. If you want your title to be underlined, and then this is for all the rest of the section, the body of the section, how you want that to be. We'll put medium. You did Times for the font. And any subheaders, what you would like that to look like. Lastly, one more thing, any section specific format. If you want a contact section, how you want that area to look. So really you could just change your whole resume. If you don't already have one to upload, you can really make this, fancy and however you think fancy looks to you with a certain type of font, italicizing anything. And what I want to highlight here under the employment history section, you can do the order by the most recent employment first or the most recent employment last. So you can make that change as well. How you want the employment date format to be. Do you want a month, date, and a year, or just a month and a year, or just years? So you can make all those changes right here on the system so that you don't have to worry about doing it later or do it to whatever, is however you want your resume to be displayed. The same for your education, if you want your most recent education first or your most recent education last. And if you have any certificates, you can display that the same way as well. Most recent certification first or most recent certification last. Just leave it as is. And I'm going to hit next. So because I'm making modifications to my resume, I changed the font style and I changed some of the sections so that it is not displayed on my resume. That is not how the system is generated. So the system is saying that I'm doing something new, so I'm creating my own template. So I have to word it and I have to title it so that the system understands that this is a template that I created. So I'm going to give my template a name. Just like you saw when I did that selection, it said my profile or this one, I think it said. That's something I had created and changed and made some edits to. It's the same thing. I'm just going to create that one. And if I ever have any resumes to use in the future, I could select this template again. That way I don't have to redo this whole section. It'll just save it for me for the future. I'm going to go to next. Because I already had my resume, or I had already filled out my background information, so it knows that I had already filled out that my education, that what school I went to and what my qualification is. If I have anything new to add, I would go over here and add anything, and just so you see how the screen looks, I'm going to go ahead and just create something else. Let's just say I have an associate's degree, course of study. If there's any programs you want to list, programs by occupation, you can select that here as well. That way it kind of does the work for you. Just so you see everything that is actually listed in CalJobs. If you have any questions about this, you can definitely ask me afterwards. Issuing institution, since I am in Glendale. I currently attend the school. Let's say I already finished. Let's say I finished in July 2013. If I want to add anything myself, I can. I could always insert a sample text, and that's what comes up with all education. Whenever you type in anything with your education, that's what comes up. And of course, that's not accurate, so I'm going to leave that blank. And let me hit save. And now I'll have both my education history that I have listed here. If I want one to be displayed and not the other, I can do that as well. Let's go to next. Now because I have a resume in here, it's pulling that information in, but I want it to be brand new. So I'm going to do add new employment history so that we can see how step 11 looks. Now it's going to ask me for the employer name. I'm just going to make up some stuff right here. So we'll just use Chase Bank, city, since I'm in Glendale. For my job title. Now, when you type it in, it pulls it from ONET, so you want to give it some time to recognize what you're typing. And once I type that in, the occupation comes in, and it's pulling, the occupation is pulling from your job title. So once I fill in bank teller and ONET recognizes what I type, the occupation comes up, and then sometimes you'll get more options to choose from down in the occupation, or you'll just get a few things if it is more specific. You'll go ahead and select whichever one best describes what you did there, and then it pulls in the occupation code. Now I'll show you why this is actually a nice feature, especially for someone who's just getting started on their resume. And I'll show you in just 1 second. So it's going to ask you about your position. What type of position was it? Was it regular, temporary, full-time? And then let's say that my salary was $9 an hour. Let's say my start date was 01/01/2013. I could say that I am currently employed, or if I stopped working, I would say whatever it is. And the reason why this ONET code comes in very handy is when it comes to the job duties, and this is very good just for someone who is starting off on their first resume. You can do the insert occupational description, and it kind of gives you a summary of whatever that occupation does. So for someone who doesn't know how to word it or is kind of stuck, it'll give you a few sentences based on the occupation, and then you can go from there and build more, or it could just give you a good idea on what to say. Now I do want to note that if you are helping a student use this, or if you do promote using any kind of insert occupational description or inserting any kind of sample text, you want to just be careful, because if you do give a resume that is pulling the insert text from, then the information is going to sound very generic and basic and almost kind of bland. You see it's only 2 sentences here. And if other people are using it, then if they should ever get another resume from someone who used CalJobs and did the insert occupational description, it'll be the same. So you always want to build upon it and just use it as an idea of how to create the job duty information. But you know, encourage a student or whoever you're helping to kind of build upon it and just use it as a reference, as opposed to just leaving it in there. But for time purposes, I'm just going to leave it in there. And go and select save and go to our next step. So now, because like I said, I had a resume in here previously, it's recognizing the other jobs I have listed in here, and it's asking if I want all of these displayed on my resume. I'm just going to select the Chase Bank, which we just did, a job I previously had listed in CalJobs, and let's say my current job that I have. I'll just leave that on my resume. Now, if you were just doing this for the first time, you could keep you would keep saying add new work history to satisfy however much work history you do have and however many jobs you've had. You can have, you know, as many listed on there as you want. As you saw in mine, I think there were 6 listed, so you can make that decision on how many you want to be actually displayed on the resume. Here it's pulling skills based on what we entered as a bank teller. It's pulling the skills from ONET, and it's saying that typically as a bank teller, this is what's associated with that. And I can go ahead and leave all of these check marked. Now, it doesn't list all of this on your resume, so don't be worried that, oh my gosh, my resume is going to look so long and so much information on there. It's just saying that these skills are connected with the bank teller. So if you hit next, it's not all going to appear on the resume. If you want to add more, if you want to change anything, you can do that. Once you hit next, it'll just have that information stored on your background, saying that those are all the skills that this individual has from that job. If there's any special abilities you want to enter, you could insert occupation-specific sample, which this one from a bank teller is saying that you experience in analyzing financial information and preparing financial reports to determine and maintain record of assets, liabilities, profit and loss, tax liability, and other financial activities within an organization. You can leave that there. You can delete it. You could skip this step, and if it appears on the resume, you can go back and change it. Now you'll see we're only on step 13. As I mentioned, doing the step-by-step process. It's a little longer than actually uploading it, but I really do think it's a good way for someone who's just starting off doing a resume. It's a good way to do it since it saves a lot of your information, and it pulls a lot of information as well, so it makes it a lot easier for you. Okay, let's just insert something and move on. Step 14, this is your objective. So this is actually pulling in from my insert occupation-specific sample text, and you can leave that as your objective, or the student could go ahead and change it and make it their own. You can just leave that there, but that's the objective. So that's a very important part of the resume. I'm sure we can all say that. So you would have a student maybe emphasize more on their skills and what they're looking for in their objective. I apologize for the system being so slow. Like I said, that does happen often. Whether you use it from Career Cafe or CalJobs, it happens. So I know that CalJobs is getting another little change here soon, so hopefully that shouldn't affect anything coming up. Step 15 is any honors you want to enter. This is obviously very good for someone who is currently in school. If they have any honors that they want to highlight here, they could go ahead and do that. It's pulling in some sample text for me that I'm a fast learner, multitask, organized, responsible. If I have more to add, I can. If I want to leave that, I will. If I have any honors I really want to mention, like, received anything, I forget what it's called, but when you're on like the dean's list, if the student wants to enter that, they could have that information in the honors, highlighting, specific achievements under honors. I wonder why, when I do it this way, it goes by a lot faster. Okay, so step 17 is your contact information, and this is for the job seeker. So you would say your name, your address. The employer won't see this information unless if you want it in the heading. That's why it's in there actually. So it says check the box for each item that you want to appear on this resume. So if someone doesn't want their mailing address to be listed on the resume, or their phone number, whatever it may be, we as a using the site, we have the option of whatever information we want to be put out there. So whatever the student or whatever the individual feels comfortable putting out there, they can leave on their resume to be displayed, or they can not have that much information up to them. I always say make sure they have an accurate phone number and email address, because there are many times when we help an employer out and we find a resume and they have great qualifications that match up with the employer, but then we call the number and it's an incorrect number, and the email, there's like a letter off or it's misspelled, and then we can't contact them. So it does put, if they're really looking for work, they're missing an opportunity if they don't really pay attention to it. And it's so easy to miss, a certain letter when you're typing something in, or if you change a number, you might forget to change, to correct all the numbers you have listed on different websites. You can list any references you have as well. It's not mandatory to have it on CalJobs. So that is our final step, last 18th step on the step-by-step process of the resume. And then this is how the resume looks. You'll see it has my heading, my objective, my abilities, employment history, education history, honors, and references. Now once you type it, when you go right here where it says download resume, a good feature is that you can download it as a Word file or a PDF file, however, is easier for someone if they like the Word file, which I think most of us do. You can save it and always expand upon it and have it as a good, reference or working doc for any future, job applications you're filling out. You can always have this as a work in progress. So that's how you manually type it in. If I had any changes, you see here, it shows you the different styles I already have listed. If I, for some reason, didn't like this template, I could just select one, and it'll change it for me. It changed the format for me. Let me do it one more time so you see it. I'm going to change from chronological to functional. And then let's go to this format. So make slight changes to your resume based on whatever format you have in there. And I'll do it for you right there so you don't have to hit save and go on. I'll just change it for you, which is a nice feature that it does. So this was the manual step-by-step process. And I can't believe it took us this much time to do it. The uploading process, let me just get there very quickly. It won't take us too long. If you have any questions on how this looks, please let me know once we're done. And I do want you to know that if there's any section that you want to change after you see it, anything that's in blue, it's a hyperlink. So we could go ahead and select it, and you can make any changes to it. So I could change this. Obviously, that's not anything I would want to list there. That's not even a complete sentence, but just to show you that it will change it for the future. When I go back and look at the resume, it made that change. So once you select any of these blue hyperlinks, it'll take you to that section, and you can make any changes there. So that was a manual step-by-step process. Very quickly, it won't take us too long. Going to the resume section here. And this is one that I had created already and that I had uploaded. So I'm just going to show you when you upload, excuse me, when you upload a resume, it really just has it the same way. It doesn't look as nice because you don't have your heading in there, but this is just for CalJobs. You can always click to view your attached resume, and then it'll show up for you. So it keeps your attached resume intact for you on the system. So you can always use it at a later time, which I really like. So you can always have that there for you as well. Now I know we're running short on time, so I'm just going to wrap it up here in case we do have any questions. And if you guys want to see more on how to actually upload the resume, it's really just uploading it and it'll ask you a few more questions. So it's not too intricate. We just saw an 18-step process. So the next uploading way is just uploading it and I'll ask you a few questions about the employment history, and that's it. But if you guys want to see more, I could try to cover it on the next webinar we have. But let me just open up for any questions just in case we have anything coming up that I can help you guys with.
Wow, Nancy, that was a ton of information. That was great. Thank you so much. We do have several questions. So let's see. We'll start with the first one here. So this was back early in early in your presentation when you were talking about that they could put up 10 different resumes. So the question is, if you can enter up to 10 resumes, but when an employer is looking for candidates, how many can you have active for them to see? Assuming obviously that you have different customized ones for different industries or different positions. So how would that work?
I'm sorry, it's a question asking how many candidates does the employer get to see?
Right. So if an employer, if a person has multiple resumes posted, an employer is out there looking at resumes, not ones that were submitted specifically for a position, but the employers have the ability to go out and see what resumes are out there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're out there looking for resumes, would they in fact see that I had 3 different resumes posted?
No, they wouldn't see that because depending on the criteria that the employer is filtering in, like if they are only looking up a specific education background and qualifications and job duties, then only those resumes that fit that criteria will be pulled from the system. So let's say, like for myself, let's say like Nancy has 4 resumes, but only one is specific to administrative assistant. Only that one will be pulled.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Hopefully that answered the question. That was Anthony was asking that question. So Anthony, if you're still with us, if that did not answer your question, if you could give us some clarifying comments, that would be great. Then the next question is about states that the field of course of study is a required field, and that this has been confusing for individuals who have never attended college. Can you talk to that?
I mean, they can always list their high school information out. They don't have to list like anything above high school. You could always say that you just have a high school diploma and that's it. So the system doesn't require you to have any, it doesn't require you to have anything above a high school diploma in there. So if they don't even have that, I'm going to go into that section right now just to see how it looks. Give me one second here. Add new education history. It'll show your qualification level. So if they at least have the GED certificate or high school diploma, that's like the least requirement that the system will take, or a certificate of attendance. So if someone doesn't have either of that, yeah, they have to have at least that, and that's because they're assuming that the person is at a certain age level as well.
Okay, and so if they just didn't add any education history, then that also they wouldn't need to put in the course of study.
Right.
So back at the last screen you were just at, if they said, I don't have any education history, then they would just not add that, right? They would not put that part in their resume.
You can always, right here, let me get back to the actual screen. There's a screen when you first get there, right here, sorry. When you're actually doing it,
right now,
right here, an area where you can skip the step, and then you'll have to delete it from the resume.
Okay. Okay. So the education history area of the resume is not really required, but once they say that they're
delete it from the resume.
Okay. Okay. And then also in the resume area where it says honors and achievements, that's all written in uppercase letter. Can that be edited? Can that be switched to make them be like a mixed case or lowercase?
Well, that's the system. It just enters that template itself. So you would have to go ahead and change it. Now remember, like inserting any of the sample text from the system is just a good way to give you an idea of what to write in there. I wouldn't say to always use it because it's not always in the best complete formatted sentences. So like you saw, it was all uppercase letters. So there's no way that we can actually change it. It's just how the system kind of takes information and puts it in CalJobs. So yeah, definitely be careful when you're looking at that or when students are using that because it will pull the information like that and it won't be like the best formatted sentences as well.
But then we can go in and edit all those things.
Oh yeah, we can make all those changes themselves. Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of goes to the next question, which was about whether or not you could bullet the abilities section. So if we can edit it, then we can do whatever we want to. So this is just a way of helping to organize the information, and then we can go in and edit it ourselves to make it appear
Yeah,
better. Okay. Okay.
exactly. There was an area where I was mentioning the I'm trying to get there. You can edit um, a resume format or modify format. Let me get there. And you can make changes to how it looks, how you want it aligned. So I'm going to go to edit template right here. The resume format is where I can go ahead and, change if I want something different text, bold,
Okay.
highlighted, italicized. I can go ahead and do that. So that way certain sections are more, they stand
Stand
out a
out
little bit
more.
more.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that you can't put any bullet point items, because I think you mentioned that someone was asking about bullet points. The system, you can't put any bullets in there.
Okay. So we can't put bullets, but all the other things we can do.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And all those questions, those 4 questions were from Anthony, and he just sent back a comment saying thank you for answering his questions. So
Oh.
we do have a few more to go. Somebody, Renee wants to know is if this webinar or one like it is available for students to view. And so Renee, this webinar has been recorded and it will be posted on the Career Briefs website. So I can't speak to whether or not you're maybe Susan will chime in here whether or not students can view the webinar, but I can't imagine why they wouldn't be able to. So, so we'll see if Susan responds to that. But right now, this is being recorded. The recording of the webinar will be available on the Career Briefs website as they have been in the past. Susan just
And if I could
responded.
just interject.
Go ahead. Yes, please do.
I'm sorry, if I could just interject real quick. Under other services, the Learning Center, you can go ahead and they actually, the system itself, CalJobs, has some videos here that you can watch too, and this is available for students, for us, everybody. And you can
Great.
watch on specific items here. It says how to use this site, creating individual background background wizard, resume builder part 2, finding a job. So there are videos that the system itself created that students can watch as well.
Wonderful. That's a great resource. Thank you so much, Nancy, and thanks, Renee, for that timely question. Susan saying no problem for students to view the recording also, and also Susan is saying to Nancy, great job, Nancy. Thank you for all your hard work. I do have another question that says, going back to the previous question, what if all the resumes that someone posts has administrative experience? Will employers be able to see all of those resumes?
Oh, I see. Like if Nancy's 10 resumes pop up.
Yeah.
It kind of does a good job, and as of course there are some glitches with the system, and I'm not going to say that it always will catch that, but it does a good job in just showing one person per section. The way that it does that, because the system is it knows that even though Nancy has 5 resumes, and of course I'm going to list my jobs in all those resumes, but one of them might specifically highlight that. It's not going to pull Nancy with all the same criteria, Nancy, this, that, and that same field, to show up 10 different times on the search list. And I can say that because when I've done a search for different things, like when I'm helping an employer out, I've never seen duplicate names ever appear on my list. And I've gone into those people's accounts, and I'll see that they have not duplicate, but they have more than one resume, but the same person won't appear more than one time.
Wonderful, great. So there's something going on behind the scenes that takes care of that for us, right? So that's great. So Renee, who wanted to be able to show stuff to her students, just posted back saying thanks for the information. Very useful for students who have never done a resume before. So that kind of wraps up our questions. Oh, there's one more. So then the bullets, we're back to the bullets question. So the bullets will remain on an uploaded resume, though. So if I upload a resume that has bullets in the document, those bullets would remain.
Yeah, if you do the option to upload your resume, your uploaded resume will never get tampered with, but it will filter into the system's resume. But you can always view your own resume, and it'll stay intact to whatever you have. But the system's resume that it copies your uploaded resume from, it won't take any any other fonts in the system does not allow, and any bullet items. It won't take into the system resume.
Okay. All right. That sounds perfect. Anthony says perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions out there, folks? So we'll give it another moment or so. Nancy, that was great information today, and what a great tool to have available for our students around the state. This is great. So it looks like that does it for the questions. Everybody's saying thank you, thank you, thank you, Nancy. So we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on November 15th, when we'll be talking about how to manage your students online, how to help them be successful in using this exciting tool. So Nancy, we look forward to seeing you on the 15th. Everyone watch for the posting of this webinar to be available to you on the Career Briefs website, and hopefully we'll see you all again on the 15th. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.